Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lords of Limited. My name is Ben Warney, and joining me on the line, as always, Mr. Ethan Redacted Sachs. Ethan, I opened our show notes, and I was reading through. You kicked them off, and I added to them a little bit later that day, and I saw every time the word data was supposed to be in the show notes, I saw the word redacted, which I appreciated. I appreciated you looking out for my mental health, but I'll have you know, I checked out 17 Lands in earnest last night in preparation for the episode because I feel like I need to be informed as a podcaster coming to what we're going to talk about.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think you very much like to live week one in the dark, and then you'll usually do what you did, which is check in on 17 Lands, game and hand win rate stuff before we record on Sunday, just so you have that in your back pocket, can sort of do it as a pulse check. I check a bit more intentionally throughout the week, like just sort of want to see like what's going on. But I was finding when I was Skyping into some of your drafts or Discording into some of your drafts this week when you were streaming that if I wanted to bring it up, I was poking the bear a little bit. So I wanted to wanted to be gentle there and just give you a little redacted in the show notes in case you didn't want to see that word, the big D word. But I'm glad to hear you checked it out. And yeah, I think it's just there to inform the conversations we're going to have. We're not using it to decide what we think is good or bad based on our experiences, but it is interesting to have it as a gut check in some ways.
Yeah, I'm very interested actually in discussing it in the sense of I had a lot of questions for myself, and I think 17 Lands also has some of those same questions for me or supports kind of what I was already feeling about stuff.
Yeah, so it is week one. We got a big info dump. I have been drafting up a storm. I've done 3 sealed leagues on Magic Online as well in preparation for the PTQ that we'll be playing in Vegas. Very excited for the coming week. Getting to do our draft and greet on Friday is now an official event near the Creator Central. So that's exciting to do. And then we'll do our live show, of course. And we got the PTQ on Saturday. And who knows on Sunday, some dirty basement drafts maybe. I don't know what the situation is out there in Vegas, but very excited for that. Let's do a little housekeeping and then we'll dive into the bulk of the discussions today.
Well, we should shout out. So there's going to be a Google form where you download the episode if you want to sign up for those draft and greets, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Friday. Live show, 5:30 p.m. in the Showcase panel room. Come check it out if you're going to be in Vegas. We would love to see you there, and we'd love to meet you.
Yeah, and of course that will be our episode for the following week, where we'll dive into what's going on in the Pro Tour. So let's chat about the Patreon page real quick. Patreon.com/Lords of Limited is where folks can go to give back to the show if they so choose. Our community is awesome. That's all I'll say. And if you want to be part of an awesome community, you have to be awesome yourself. But if you are, you'll find your way into the Lords of Limited Patreon, and you'll find your way into the Lords of Limited Discord, which is just awesome. I feel like I've had a renewed sense of what's going on in the Discord. I've been tapping into it a lot more in the past couple months, certainly in Tarkir Dragonstorm and now at the start of this format, getting to dive into some sealed pool stuff in preparation for the PTQ, just sort of always checking in on what's going on, the big picture discussions and the card evaluations discussions, and of course the trophy deck discussions. So the Discord, if you want to be part of a community of like-minded limited individuals, the Discord from the Patreon is the place for you. And we've also got another awesome perk as you move up the reward tier rankings on the Patreon page, which is access to our podcast feed, where you'll not only find this episode a day early ad-free in your feed, but also access to our weekly bonus episode of Lords Unlimited, where anything's on the table. There's magic. There's always magic, but then who knows what else is going to happen. I have some scribblings of some things to talk about today on a paper in front of me that Ben has no idea about, as he's just blissfully unaware, but it's going to be great. So Lords Unlimited is awesome. Our Discord is awesome. And the Patreon is where you get access to both of those. And we want to make sure that we shout out our new patrons the first week that they join. And it's Father's Day. So I'm excited that we get to shout out Day Dad Dave, Mark, Gwen, Jacob, Sam, Radius, Mickey, Silas, Sebastian, Evan, Mike, William, and someone heard the call last week, but it was not for Ben. It was for Ethan is my hero. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We really appreciate your support.
Thank you to everyone except Ethan is my hero. Absolutely wrecked. I opened Discord, and usually when I have notifications there from Ethan, we DM a lot on Discord as opposed to texting or whatever. I don't know. It's just what we've always done. If we get a text, It's serious business.
Where are you?
But just get a text with the Patreon notification that Ethan is my hero. Subscribe to the Discord. So absolutely savage there. Well played. And I was just thinking while you were talking about that, we have so many funny people in the Discord too. Like I think you're very funny, and I think you attract other funny people around you. I don't know how you got stuck with me as your podcast co-host, but yeah,
You,
love the Discord.
yeah, it's a great place. Okay, so where do we want to start with these
Uh, I
discussions?
I think just starting at the top. So I have been struggling in the format to win, despite feeling like I understand it completely, which is obviously at odds with each other. Like clearly, there's some stuff I'm missing or not doing right. Because the only trophy I have is the one draft we did together,
And that
where we
draft
were
was not great.
it's not great. And I have had a lot
This was
of
a draft where we drafted blue red with oops all things that cared about power 4 non-creature spells matter with no non-creature spells. So like just scraping the bottom of the barrel. We played that 4 mana rock that also can tap something for 2 mana if you pay a life. Like
that was great in
pick
our deck.
I mean, we just needed. What did you have? 3 or 4 Sahagins in that deck?
4 Sahagins, yeah.
Yeah, you're just dying. I think we picked Call the Mountain Chocobo over like much better cards because we were just like, hey, it's 2 ways to trigger Sahagin. So yeah, that was a dicey draft for sure.
Dicey draft. And I've had a lot of drafts that I would have assumed would have trophied and didn't. And I think my experience has been that I keep losing to Mana Flood, Mana Screw, or missing one of my colors. And anytime that doesn't happen, I have just been absolutely steamrolling people, like completely, like not close to close. And then I had rated Amaz after one of my streams, and he was like, Ben, I've been watching you play a lot. Like, and I just gotta tell you, you gotta stop playing red and you start playing blue. Like, you need to find ways to hit your 4th land drop instead of complaining about not hitting your 4th land drop. And
That's
like
pretty good advice.
yeah, so like stuff like combat tutorial, the 2 and a blue, draw 2, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, that sort of stuff. So I took that advice to heart, and I was already thinking, okay, like I need to start figuring out ways to mitigate, smooth my draws, have a little more agency over what my deck is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then last night, got home to work on the show notes and opened 17 lands. And to my surprise, at the top of the data was Dreams of Laguna, the 1 and a blue, surveil 1, draw a card, and then has flashback for 3 and a blue. There's Combat Tutorial up there, and Resentful Revelation, also the 1 and a black, look at 3, pick 1, and then it's got flashback for 6 and a black. All of those being the type of cards I was already planning to prioritize on the advice of Amaz, and just kind of what I'd already been feeling, that I needed to start playing some of those cards. And so I thought that was really interesting to be feeling that and then open 17 lands and see all those cards doing well in the data.
Yeah, those are actually two of those 3 cards, Combat Tutorial and Resentful Revelation, were cards that I had on our list of cards to check in on later on, because those are 2 cards that I see being high up in the game and hand win rate data, which we will not be referring to as redacted, though it is written in that way in our show notes, that are not cards that I love in draft. I have really liked that Combat Tutorial and Resentful Revelation in my sealed experience so far, but I don't know how highly I should be rating them in draft. Like Combat Tutorial specifically, am I just running that in any blue deck? Am I needing to prioritize like a ton of 2s so I can play it on turn 3 and have a place to dump the counter? That feels counterintuitive with Dreams of Laguna and Resentful Revelation being high, because those are 2 mana plays that don't affect the board. Those are the questions I have swirling around in my head about those cards.
Well, so I have similar questions. I think you're just supposed to be playing 2s in the format, period. The format
Sure.
really rewards being on the board, I think, as most limited formats do these days. I don't think that's shocking, a limited news or whatever for a podcast to be delivering. But I think like if you filter by top users, it's Resentful Rev 1, Dreams of Laguna 2, Dragoon's Wyvern 3, Combat Tutorial 4. Like that chunk of cards there, which is kind of wild, but also like not crazy to me based on what I've been feeling in the format. Like I'm curious to start playing those cards. I've not cast a single Resentful Revelation. I have cast maybe 1 Dreams of Laguna or something, like not a lot. And I have cast no combat tutorials, and so like I got to start playing with those cards and seeing what's up. That's my takeaway, is kind of what you've always talked about, which is if they're at the top, like they're undeniably good and doing good things. So we got to figure out how to incorporate those into decks, I think.
Yeah, and maybe and this might segue us better into another large question that I think both of us have about the synergy level of the format, is that like maybe my thoughts of like, well, do I need to make sure I'm doing X, Y? Like, if I'm playing Dreams of Laguna, do I need to make sure I have the 4 power or the 4 MV non-creature payoffs? Or if I'm playing combat tutorial, do I need to make sure I have a bunch of twos? And it might just be, you should just be playing these cards and like just put them in your deck when you have islands, you know? And so is this as high of a synergy format as we were hoping or surmising in the previous weeks?
That's my biggest question, and my feeling is still yes. Like, my heart wants to say yes, but just when I look at the cards and I see what's possible, but my head is telling me that I'm leaning too hard into synergy. That's my current feeling about myself, is that all of that checks out with my experience, in that every time I win, I am crushing
Mm-hmm.
because my synergy is coming together and popping off so hard. But every
Mm-hmm.
time I lose, it's not usually. I've not played a lot of close games in this format yet,
Mm.
and I've played a lot. I'm probably what, an embarrassing number of drafts in for having trophied once, like 15 to 20 drafts would be my guess. Like, I've
Mm-hmm.
done quite a bit of playing this week, and so that makes me think that it is maybe less of a high synergy format, or not that it, like, to borrow from Alex Corticalls and the Limited Level Ups podcast, is it more of a pockets of synergy format rather than a
Mm-hmm.
high synergy format? Because I'm treating it like a Masters set right now, and I'm wondering if maybe more of it's play the good cards, make sure you can hit your land drops, and then take your synergies where they come.
Yes, that I think is more what it is. I think part of the synergy lens is skewed because two of the best, if not the two best decks, are fairly high synergy in blue red and black green. Like, both of those decks are very clearly like blue red really wants to, is really like Ikoria levels of like column A, column B levels of synergy of like, you have your things that care about casting stuff that's non-creature mana value 4, which is the most clunky description of something ever. So you have the things that care about that, and you have the things that do that. And if the cards in your deck don't fall into one of those two categories, they have to really be doing something special to warrant that. Has been my experience. Black green slightly less so, but still, like, black green very clearly, like, Cloud of Darkness just wants you to have permanence in your graveyard. So that is the thing that a lot of the black green space is occupied in, is I want to make sure my things are permanence when possible. I want to make sure I have good amount of self mill, recursion, like the black green graveyard stuff. The rest of the decks, I think, are less synergistic than those two. But those two being so good, I think, skews my perception of, oh, that means that for decks to be good, they have to be that highly synergistic. And I'm not sure if that's the case.
That's my current takeaway this week. Although I need to start playing sealed, so I'm probably not going to test this out that much this week.
Mm-hmm.
I got to start playing sealed for Vegas, but also, if we're going to make day 2, we got to draft on day 2, so we might as well just be practicing for day 2 of the
That's what
PTQ.
I'm talking about. How many
Positive
seals?
mental attitude.
You need to do like what, 5 or 6 sealeds? Like, you don't need to do that many sealeds.
Sure, yeah. But so specifically to those two decks, if we're talking about Dreams of Laguna and Resentful Revelation, they do it all, right? For those two decks, they are early draw smoothing things, where
Mm-hmm.
Dreams of Laguna then also is a 4 mana value spell
Right.
that's synergistic with the blue. So it's a good card that's also synergistic. And similarly, Resentful Rev dumps the cards in your yard that you
Mm-hmm.
don't select. So, like, gets you to your land drops, so you're not missing land drops. Like, they're good cards that are also doing the thing.
But yeah, I see it for Dreams. For Resentful Rev, the sticking point for me is I'm like, but it's not a permanent. You
But
know?
by the time you play some town greeters or whatever, that has the choking point in black green for me has not been difficulty getting cards into my graveyard.
So yeah, that and like flashing back Resentful Revelation is like almost never happening, but I guess it's like nice if it can. That's like, I see like Dreams of Laguna I get, Combat Tutorial I get. Resentful Rev is the biggest mystery for me currently.
How have your games been playing out? Like, if you had to give like 3 quick hits on the types of games you play on the format, do you think about that sort of stuff at all?
No,
Okay, so
you're
let me
hitting
tell
me with
you
a question. Yeah.
yeah, let me tell you what I think and see if any of it checks out with you. So, if
Okay.
I were to broadly categorize types of games that you play, it's games where you're like grinding. There's like the white equipment games where
Mm-hmm.
you grind and then you're re-equipping, like very equipment heavy games. There's games against black red where, like, they get 3 or 4 wizards out, and you get buried under the wizards. Like there's wizard racy games, but then there's also games that are like, well, and then there's games where somebody sticks a rare and somebody can't answer it, and the game's over because they stick a rare and somebody can't answer it. But I've also played some games that get card advantage, like where nobody is closing the game out quickly, and the person who has just more cards wins. Like I've played a lot of those types of games too. I've played, despite the games not feeling very good, I do think there are a lot of different types of games.
Well, but I feel like grindy was what I was going to say, but I don't know if that's fair. But because I feel like that encompasses both the equipment style games, which are I have played white by far the most, which maybe is like a bad look because it seems like Sultai is where it's at according to the data. And I think a lot of folks are having success with those kinds of late game grindy decks. But grindy, I feel like encompasses both the resource accrual, classic grind them out stuff that Sultai gets to do, just sort of card advantage, 2-for-1s, etc. And also the grindy natures of the white job select decks.
Yeah, I think grindy is a good description. But if the games get grindy, then sometimes you're going to have time to cast Resentful. Of the 3, Combat Tutorial is the one that checks out the least with me, other than just like you want to hit your 4th land drop. So you're going to cast that and you're going to put it in your deck because all of the good cards start at 4 mana value.
Yes, right. Yeah, there's such a 4-drop problem. I mean, it's not a problem, but it's very easy to have like 6 4-drops in your deck and be like, I don't want to cut any of these.
Correct.
Yeah. To that point, I mean, we don't talk about this that much because it's usually a moot point, but like, I think like 18 lands is not crazy in this format. I've been running 18 lands in sealed a lot. I think outside of the world of best of one without a hand smoother, I don't think it's crazy to be running 18 lands, especially if you're packing your deck with lots of ways to, mitigate flood in that way with card selection spells. I just feel like the games I lose, especially when I look at my deck where I'm like, I have, 6 4-drops and 2 of them are weapons vendor or whatever. And as long as I hit that, then I know I'll get more gas or whatever. That like, yeah, I just never want to miss land drops. That feels like another theme of 2025.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So that takes me on to another question that I have about the format is it high synergy? Probably less than I'm viewing it or have been treating it.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about removal and it being potentially overrated going into the format. How important is the removal? When are you picking it? Just thoughts on removal in the format.
It's important. I think more important than our format truths would have led to believe. Though, like we mostly said, like the good removal will still be good. But even some of the removal that I thought wasn't going to be good, like let's say Chocobo Kick, for example, like Chocobo Kick is excellent, I think. And I would not have said that. So a lot of the removal, like, I mean, White Oracite was a question that, or a card that we had questions about, and is just, one of the best commons according to game and hand win rate. I'm still like not sold myself in the white decks. I'm a Slash of Light stan, but like a lot of the removal is performing really well in the data and checks out for me as like, yeah, I want to pack my deck with, I don't know, half a dozen interactive spells maybe, and doubly so in sealed. Like if your sealed deck can't interact, you're toast.
That's good to know for sealed. If you filter by top users, it's less removal dominant at the top. But I do agree removal's good. I think the good removal is good, is my takeaway. But the thing that's hard for me to rationalize about it.
Okay. But so what do you mean when you say the good removal? Because I feel like we should be more specific.
Sure. The stuff we shouted out last week, like Thunder Magic, Ice Magic, Sephiroth's Intervention, Bane's Treachery.
Is Ice Magic in that tier?
Yes, Ice Magic is good. As far as an interactive spell I want to include in my deck, yes. Okay. I think White Oracite goes there. I'm not fussed particularly between White Oracite and the card that you like, the one in a white, deal damage.
Flash, yeah.
But the cheap, efficient interactive spells, the cards that you would grade highly.
But even like Suplex, like I feel like those. No,
I'm not in on Suplex that much. No.
Okay.
Being sorcery speed is a pretty big knock against it, I think.
I'm never cutting it,
but I'm also
not.
I will pick I will pick creatures and synergy cards over
Okay, that's fair.
suplex. Like
Can we talk?
to me, when we talked about format truths, that's what I meant. Is that like you're going to be prioritizing synergy and cards that make your deck tick more than interacting with your opponent? And I think the scales are tipped more than we would have said towards wanting to interact with your opponent. But the thing I have trouble rationalizing is that removal lines up so poorly versus all of the best commons. Like
that's why I want to talk about
Dragoon's Wyvern. There's Town Greeter. There's like the White Mage's Staff, Job Select. Yeah, removal's all so bad against all that stuff.
Well, how is, and I know it's not the case when you sort by top users, but I'm still confused. How is Cornered by Black Mages performing well? The 1BB, they sack a creature and you make an 0-1 wizard. I think that card is abysmal.
I don't in red black but if you subscribe to red black not being great, which I think if you look at the deck archetype data on 17 lands, it says red black is one of the
second worst.
Yeah, not great. I don't subscribe to that. Like I'm stressed when I play against red black.
Even if you subscribe to it being that good, how good is 3 mana make an 0-1 wizard? Like even if you subscribe to red black being good, I mean, how good is 3 mana make an 0-1 wizard? They sack their 1-1 token from Wyvern, or they sack their Town Greeter.
That's worth it. That's a fine trade.
But so that's one archetype where it's fine, but still in my mind, like much worse than Sephiroth's Intervention, much worse than Vane's Treachery, right? Even in red black.
I would pick it ahead of Vane's Treachery in red black.
That's so weird to me. That card has never impressed me this entire week. I've never been like, I really got cornered by black mages. Like, and it has been.
You're playing white.
Yes, I am playing white. That's one of the 5 colors you're allowed to play in the game.
I agree. I'm not. That sounded disparaging for me. I didn't mean it to sound disparaging. Like, it just makes sense to me. That's more. I was saying that, like, yeah, that checks out because the job select cards are all amazing against.
So what decks? But what decks are bad against black mages? Because like. White gets job select, green gets Town Greeter or Chocobo tokens. Blue gets Wyvern, which brings along a 1-1. Like, what decks are cornered by black mages just going like, gotcha?
Listen, I agree, but I also like red black, I think. And maybe that's something I just need to move down and get over. But I think red black's good. And we're getting ahead of ourselves in the show notes. We should just save that till later in the show notes, I think. Okay. When we go to talk about colors and archetype stuff. But I want to revisit the black mages red black conversation.
Okay.
But overarchingly, to put a pin in removal, I do like. I don't know. I don't want 6 removal spells in my deck. I don't think, unless they're synergistic. Like that's why blue red is good, because your removal is also triggering all your stuff. I can see it from blue black too. If I'm just trying to wrap my head around what blue black has been looking like, and I guess we're getting into archetype discussion anyway. But like that can also be a Sahagin deck about triggering for, like Sahagin pairs very nicely with Sephiroth's Intervention, that sort of thing. Like you can do a blue Sahagin thing in blue black, which is nice.
Okay.
But anyway, so some questions still for removal, but I think better than we would have said.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, next question. Is the format as open as I was describing last week? My feeling is still largely yes, I think, with the exception of a couple decks falling flat.
Yeah, there certainly isn't a color that I'm feeling like I want to avoid. And I don't really think there's an archetype that I want to avoid at the moment. But I also haven't gotten to draft a lot of them yet. Like I don't think, because I've played a lot of white, so I've played the white color pairs quite a bit and have opinions about those, but the others less so.
Yeah, I think red green would be a hard avoid for me at this point. Like I think I'm trying to avoid the Naya space.
Yes.
If I were trying to avoid something, but not. I'm still in for white red, but I think that's more just a white job select deck than anything else.
Right. And similarly, like I think then white green, I have drafted and seen some drafts of. I feel like white green's biggest problem, and this speaks more to the format being a synergy format, which is interesting. But my feeling about white green is that it's very easy for white green to pull you in different directions. You can be pulled in it's a base white job select deck, and so you want Weapons Vendor, you want Bard's Bow to be able to re-equip those for cheap, etc. you can get pulled into the legend space with, your fine hound and your white green base legends, and you've got blitzball and whatever. And maybe even you get to play in some sort of Naya saga space with the 2-drop signpost. But those three things are pretty massively different decks. And I have had experience where I've had like half of one and half of the other, and it is not good.
Yeah. I think the best thing is Legends, because those are just the best cards generally.
But I don't think that's that's not a tier 1 deck. It's like how Legends was in Lord of the Rings in my mind. Like, it's like a fun tier 2 thing to do.
I think it's better than that, but I'm also Legends pilled, so I would take my advice with a grain of salt.
Well, I think the official Lords of the Limited stamp will be tier 2.
Okay. But yeah, I just wanted, those were questions I had, and I just wanted to chat with you about and see where you're at on the format.
Yeah, it seems like largely, despite our different experiences, not only with colors and archetypes, but with Mana Screw and Mana Flood, that we've come to the same conclusions on those questions.
Well, except I think I really want to play card filtering more than you do at this point. But I also switched to best of 3 pretty early on, but I was having the same Mana Screw, Mana Flood, color screw problems in best of 1 as well.
I have not played best of 1 in this format yet. I've exclusively played best of 3 and
exclusively best of 3, Bob.
Yeah, that's me right now. Just trying to prep for the good Vegas life.
I'm here for it. Okay, I also want to check in on most drafted cards. I feel good about my list here, which is weird. Like, that's what I mean, where something is off with what I'm doing, because I have good cards in my list, and I'm not winning. My gameplay is not that bad. Room for improvement. It's not that bad. So most drafted common is Dragoon's Wyvern with 17 copies, which is double almost everything else from my list, and I think that's a great top common to have. And I've drafted a bunch of my phones. This isn't like the hard and fast list, but I think certainly White Mage's Staff and Weapons Vendor are up. I've done some white drafts on my phone, but Thunder Magic is in there. Call the Mountain Chocobo, Sahagin, White Mage's Staff, Weapons Vendor. Like, it's a good list. That says I should have been blue-red a bunch, but I somehow haven't managed to be blue-red.
Yeah.
It's been more blue-white that I've been. I think that's my most drafted archetype.
Yeah. I mean, mine is just oops, all white cards. 4 of my top 5 commons or most drafted cards are white cards. It's just, I don't know. Like, my feeling about white, like, I know that I think the like I said, if you look at the top, whatever, game in hand win rate cards in the format, they're largely in the Sultai space. Like, maybe you got like a Dragoon's Lance as one of, if not, I think the top white or the top uncommon overall, but the rest is, you're not seeing white cards. My feeling about white is, like, if I'm not seeing, like, white is just such a clear game plan. It's so synergistic with itself. It's what I sort of saw in the crash course that I feel like is bearing out. And if I'm not seeing power elsewhere, the floor of white, I think, is so high that, like, I feel really, and it seems open a lot of the time. And so I feel like if I don't see that really good stuff to do, I feel so fine taking a White Mage's Staff and a Weapons Vendor. And I'm like, well, I know that this is going to come together without much else,
Sure. Yes.
That's been my feeling. I had some things I wanted to check in on, just like sagas being not like the be all and end all power level that I was maybe expecting, like, coming in being like, these are going to be the cards that they're format defining. I just think they're really well designed, very cool cards that are not like warping and have pretty wide ranges of how impactful they are. Like, sometimes Summon Fenrir comes down on turn 3 and you're like, dang, that's going to snowball. Sometimes it comes down on turn 6 and it doesn't really do very much. And same with like Chocomog could be like, oh my God, they're going to anthem their whole board. And sometimes you just pick off their other creature and they sit there with a sad 3/3 facing off against your 1/4 for a couple turns. Like, that push-pull of, like, they're kind of mini games when they come down, which I appreciate, where, like, they land and you go, okay, the game for the next 2 to 3 turns is about that card. And what do I decide to do with it? Am I going to pick it off now and, chalk up the 2-for-1? Am I going to try and tank some of the damage to then just have it die and now they're down a card? Like, I've really appreciated the gameplay of those cards.
Yeah,
by and large.
They're excellent. The commons and uncommons are excellent. The rares you have to kill on site, but the commons and uncommons are very fun to play with and against.
I wanted to talk about combat tricks because I am predisposed to basically not play any of these kinds of cards normally, but I definitely feel like I have a hard time making room for like any of these in my decks, especially the commons. Like the green and the white tiered uncommons, I think are pretty good, but like you're not alone, the white +2/+2 or +4/+4, haste magic, even dare I say blitzball shot, the +3/+3 trample, they're not really on my radar. Are these cards you're playing?
I don't think they're great. I've played Blitzball Shot when I've played green Chocobo decks. I think it's fine there. But you want synergy and removal and card selection, I think, more than you want combat tricks.
Just to check in on the colors broadly before we get into archetypes and individual cards. Like I said, white is definitely the color I have the most experience with. I've been playing a lot of white in the format, having success. I have 2 black-white trophies, 1 red-white, lots of 2/1s. Black-white, weirdly, deck I've played like 4 or 5 times so far. I'm definitely not as convinced that it's the best color. I think the scuttle is that blue is the best color. I do think its floor is incredibly high, as I said. I am surprised by weapons vendor being low in the game and hand win rate. Like, I guess I don't know what my current rankings for top white commons are. And my guess is the reason weapons vendor is low in the game and hand win rate data is that people aren't playing enough of the job select cards with it. And so, like, because if you don't get that re-equip, it's not as good. But I just don't know how you're doing that if you're playing white.
Yeah, I feel great about Weapons Vendor still. I feel great when I cast it, and I feel demoralized when my opponents cast it.
Right. I mean, I think you do have to be packing like, but it's another card that people don't like. The data doesn't like the Warrior's Sword, right? The 3 in a red 4/3 job select equipment that gives +3/+2, and Bard's Bow. But like, you shouldn't be playing white green. But even I don't know, being able to re-equip Dragoon's Lance for 1, Dragoon's Lance is so oppressive. And when you re-equip that, like, I know this is a joke at this point. Flying is really good in this format. There is a like there's a leveling war that I feel like happens with in the format, which is that there's a lot of ground 2/2s and 3/2s. And then there's really good defensive speed in like blue largely gets the 2 mana 1/4 and Sahagin, which grows to a 2/4 trivially easily. And then once you have 4 toughness on the ground, it's hard for some of those cards to punch through. And that just makes flying way better because there's all this sort of like standoff stuff on the ground, and then
Well,
you
and
can
there's 1/1s running around to chump with, that sort of thing.
right.
Yeah.
So I do think flying is very good. And yeah, Dragoon's Lance has just been like, oh man, how the heck am I supposed to? I got to deal with the Lance. Like, you need white Aura Sight, and maybe that's one of the reasons Aura Sight is so good is that it answers non-creatures too.
Yeah, I would buy it. I've that's one of the cards we're going to chat about later. We can do it then. But I agree. White has been very good. I have enjoyed playing white quite a bit. I think it's my like doing white job select decks. I've done quite a bit as well, and I think it's been good. I don't think it's the best color. I'm buying the community scuttle that blue is the best color.
Mm-hmm. Well, and speaking of blue, I'd say I want to shout out our boy Samp, Rough Drafts podcast episode this week on Sahagin, and he did a really cool deep dive into sort of the history of arena age formats where blue was the best color and what like sort of characteristics that color had in those formats, and why blue in this format is pointing to that as well. And this is a good time to chat about a card we've referenced a lot, which is Sahagin, the 1 in a blue 1/3 common that gets a counter every time you play something with mana value 4 or greater that's a non-creature, and notably is unblockable.
This is what Snowmelt Stag was supposed to be. This is what it was supposed to be, but it just wasn't. And that was the other thing I meant to say about the Discord too. When you were giving your Discord spiel, there's been so many people coming into the Discord lately that are like, "What is this thing?" That kind of ask it like, "Please don't make fun of me for asking about what this is." But I think that's just the nature of our podcast. Is that
well, it's also the nature of anything that's been on for 8 years. Like, we're gonna have some deep cuts sometimes.
Yeah. But anyway, so Snowmelt Stag was famously last format Tarkir Dragonstorm. We came out after playing early access and said it was going to be amazing, and it was horrible. We said the best common was going to be not matter, which was Sipsing Appraiser. We moved that way down, and we moved one of the worst commons way up. It was quite embarrassing as content creators. But Sahagin is the real deal. Like it's good. And I listened to I'm about halfway through Rough Drafts, but Samp was being very measured in his approach, which I appreciated. I'm gonna be a little more outgoing about Sahagin. I do think Sahagin is very good, and I think it is one of the best things that Blue gets to do. It's at the power level of Dragoon's Wyvern, and Blue getting 2 cards like that plus interaction plus card smoothing is all very good. And the fact that you're talking about combat tutorial, I think one of the problems I had with combat tutorial was it not being 4 mana value, and so not being
Mm,
synergistic. But it also just plays great with Sahagin because it's 4 mana value, because you just get to dump the counter on Sahagin just a turn
right.
earlier. You know what I mean?
Right, and it's not like you're dying to attack with your Sahagin as a 2/4 anyway. You're mostly like the way those games play out. If you haven't, I mean, I don't know if you have been playing this format, you've certainly seen this card. But if for some reason you haven't, like usually the way it plays out is you're hold the line, hold the line, hold the line, and then you crack in with like 2/4 power unblockable Sahagins twice and win.
Correct. Yeah. So I do think Sahagin's great. It would not shock me if Sahagin ends up ahead of Dragoon's Wyvern in the
Wow.
game in hand. Whatever. I think they're comparable cards, and I think Sahagin coming down a turn earlier, they do different things, but they're both very good. I think. Long story short, I think before we move on to black, similarly to Sahagin, we might as well talk about both cards here. I think the 2 best cards that we missed were Sahagin and Galacat being in white, and we've already kind of talked about white. I think
It's
we should.
Scalacat. It's not Jellycat. I've been calling it Jellycat.
I've been calling it Galacat. I feel like it's got some Irish heritage, Scalicc.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's what I've been seeing in the art. With the demon wings on the cat.
Sure,
That
sure.
classic Irish art. But anyway, I've been calling it Galacat. I'm sure it is not Jellycat.
It's more fun to say Jellycat.
I'm sure it's more fun to say Jellycat. That's the 2 and a white 1/3 that gets +2/+0. As long as you have 2 more artifacts, and it's got flying and vigilance. Similarly, you're talking about flying. Like, I think we can't talk about how good flying is and how good white is without talking about Galacat. I think Galacat is for white what Sahagin is for blue, and I think both of those cards, both those colors, getting a card at that power level that looks unassuming, in addition to all the other cards that look great, has been big boons for both of those colors.
I agree. I think talking about Galacat is really good because, especially in the world of Dragoon's Wyvern, a 1/3 flying vigilance is king. And when it's a 3/3 flying vigilance, it's a clock. Like the fact that it gets to play offense and defense is tough.
Well, and it also wears the job select equipment so well. Like, because then
Yep.
it's a 4/4, then it's a 5/4 ward 1 flying vigilance. Like, it's real good.
Yes, I agree with that. Not much to say about black. Like removal's been playing out well, as we said. I think intervention and treachery are great cards. I am still, as I said, perplexed by cornered by black mages. I like black a lot. I don't know where it is in my. I don't really have a pecking order right now. I guess my pecking order brings us to red, which is I think red is the worst color. But that's not to say that I think it's bad, but I just think it's the worst color. I was trying to compare. I was comparing it a little bit just because it feels a little like red and Dominaria, and that's a deep cut right there for folks. That's like what 7 years ago. Red was definitely the worst color in Dominaria, but the best deck in Dominaria was Blue Red Wizards. We're not quite in that space, but it's similar. Where like I do think red is the worst color here, and I do think Blue Red is one of, if not the best decks in this format. It's underperformed my expectations, but I think it gets a good interaction like Thunder Magic. I like the job select stuff it gets to do, but I think some of its decks just kind of fall a little flat, like red green. But I want to give you the opportunity in now or in a bit to talk about red black.
Yeah, I want to push back a little bit, and maybe this is just me wanting to not be wrong about red being good. I would certainly be willing to acknowledge that, but I think blue red pretty clearly the best archetype, or one of the best archetypes, if not the
Yeah,
best.
it's
I
between
would say the
blue red
best.
and black green are the two in my mind.
I would say it's between blue white, blue
You
red.
think blue white is maybe the best deck in the format?
I think it is one of them. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely one of the top half decks, but yeah, I like black green a lot. Okay, anyway.
So if we're subscribing to blue red being the best deck, like red's obviously great there, contributing a lot. I also love red white. Like I think red white's
Yes.
very good. Like it just works. It is a job select deck, and it's very good at being a job select deck. The thing that's tough about red white, if I'm subscribing to my gotta have ways to filter my draws. Red white doesn't get tons of that, other than that it gets the job select stuff as mana sinks, but you're basically prey to whatever you draw is what you're doing.
Yeah.
In red white. I still think red black's good. And if red black isn't good, I'm here for red probably being the worst color. But it's just so hard for me to say that from the red black decks I faced, and I've also felt very good playing red black. I think it gets built wrong a fair amount. Like I do think you need the mages. Like the way when I have lost to red black or when it's felt good playing it, you get ahead, and then you're ahead enough that your opponent can't really race you because they can't afford to take any extra damage. But then like you stall it out because you've gotten ahead, and then you just close the game out with your your 3 mages draining every time you cast spells. I've been really impressed with that deck personally, but if that falls flat, I'm here for red not really working.
Yeah, I can't weigh in. I haven't played it at all yet, and I haven't seen it very much yet either.
And I do think red green is quite bad, personally, which takes us on to green, which is what I would make a case that green is the worst color in the format rather than red.
Like, what is going on with green right now? And I know this is our Lords of Limited bit. We hate green all the time. We underrate it, blah, blah, blah. But like, the Chocos are they good?
No, red green is atrocious.
Like I had a real like all in Naya Chocos deck that had a ton of pieces that had 4 of the side quest.
Oh my god, that doesn't seem real, but like that you could expect to do that on average is more what I meant.
But I mean, there was one game I would have flipped them, but my opponent conceded. But otherwise, it was really hard to have 4 things on the battlefield without wanting to, because they're just 2/2s. And I like, am I supposed to just take hits from my opponent until I flip this? And like, or they have a or like I decide to take the hits and then they kill so that I can flip and then they kill it. Like it's just a hard thing to do. And ultimately you are just playing a board of grizzly bears. You're just playing a bunch of 2/2s, and yeah, they're 3/2s on your turn, but like, I don't know. It was one experience. And so I'm not trying to draw tons of conclusions from it, but the Chocos as a deck has not felt good. Like Gasol Greens is still like a good card, but like the all-in Choco stuff, which is what red green ostensibly is trying to do, seems bad. Green white, we've talked about its struggles. Green black, I think, is very good, but it's more a black deck than anything, but it's where Town Greeter gets to be its best, I think. And green blue blue's not like a deck by itself, right? Like green blue just then gets to be Sultai or Teamer or whatever, right?
Yeah, green blue X, I think. And green blue X, I think, is really good. I do think green's good in those
really
senses.
Good.
Yes.
It's like tier 2 though, right? Like it's
not.
Green blue is one of the best decks.
Green blue splash? I think so. It's tier 1. I will not let the Lords of Limited stamp be tier 2 on that deck.
I'm checking the Redacted real quick. Redacted hates blue green. I guess blue green plus splash it likes more.
That's what blue green is.
Okay.
And it's really interesting if you filter by top users. There's just almost no instances of straight blue green, and it still does okay. But then when you look at blue green splash black or blue green plus splash, there's way more instances, and it's doing way better.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
That's just what it is. And I do think it's good. I do think it's tier 1.
Okay.
But so green to me ultimately is black green or blue green splash. I just basically think you're supposed to stay away from red green and green white unless you're playing heavy white or white green legends or whatever. Just green white great cards is probably what you have to be playing. But the synergy stuff is tough because you just have no way to filter your draws. And I know I'm stuck on that, but that's such a big takeaway for me going into next week, I think.
The other problem with green white is that like it's so reliant, like when you're like green white great cards, it's just so reliant on the good cards being opened or passed to you, because if they're not, you're stuck with white commons, which all want to do the like job select stuff. Yes. And that's not good for that deck. And then you're pulling yourself in different directions. Yeah. I could be here for green being the worst color over red.
But again, ultimately, I still don't think it matters that much. I think it's all fairly close. Like blue's the best, but it's not by leaps and bounds, that sort of thing. So yeah, interesting to touch in on all the colors. If we touch in on the archetypes, I think fairly similar to what we thought last week. I feel pretty good about where stuff's at. Tier 1, blue red, blue white, green black, blue green splash, and red white. I would say those are all tier 1, and blue black as well. Except I have not played blue black yet. Have you?
I have played blue black once and I trophied with it, but I had like four really good rares in the deck. I feel like blue black at non rare kind of struggles. I'm not a big fan of Ultimecia, the 5 mana 4/5 signpost that flips. Like, I think that card's kind of whatever. And Lock Cole, the 2/3 Death Touch Lifelink loot is a good, but
That one's good.
it's fine. Is it like incredible?
It's good. It's not incredible, but it's better than fine.
Okay. C plus. It's a C plus, right? C plus.
C plus plus plus.
It's not pulling me into blue black. I'll tell you that much. So I'll give it a C plus is the highest I'll go. And I don't know. Yeah, blue black has not done it for me, but the redacted seems to like it. So I'll keep my eyes out for it.
Yeah. Tier 2, white, black, black, red, green, white, and bringing up the rear, red, green has been embarrassing, and the data also thinks it is embarrassing. So, question I had is what do good blue black decks look like? And I thought, well, I should answer my own question. So I went like a good kid. I went to 17 lands and looked at the trophies and filtered by blue black decks, or went through and clicked on blue black decks, and they're just full of good blue and black cards. It's not earth shattering. Like they're just running all of the good blue black cards, all the good blue black filtering cards, some counter spells. Like it's not rocket science.
It's another point in the not a super synergistic format or not as high synergy.
I agree. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As we were asking. Let's speed run through this list of cards so we can get to a draft.
Sure.
Look at. We talked about Gallicat. We talked about Sahagin. Swallowed by Leviathan is the 2 and a blue. Counter a thing, surveil 2, and then your opponent can pay X to stop it from being countered, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. Sam shouted this out on Rough Drafts. I already was feeling this and wanted to talk about it. This is cancel. That is easier to cast and has surveil 2. It's a great card, and it is, oh boy, even better in sealed. Card feels just like you can't lose at a certain point when you have this.
So where are you playing this? Or do I just need to start putting it in every blue deck?
That's my personal note after playing with it in sealed this week and feeling how good it was, is like, I just need to start playing this in every blue deck. It's sort of my note about my hang up with combat tutorial. It's like, oh, where do I play it? Oh, but I'm not holding up mana. I don't play at instant speed enough. Like, I think it's just a great card and I should just be playing it when I have islands in my deck.
Yeah, I think I have really run into that with Swallowed by Leviathan, which brings me back to maybe it's not a high synergy format, or not. Certainly not. Like that is certainly a takeaway from this week, is that I got to tone it down on viewing it as a high synergy format.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're viewing it as a synergy format, Swallowed by Leviathan doesn't go in blue white. It doesn't really go in blue red that well, other than that you're just probably holding up mana in that deck, but it's not at 4 mana value.
Mm-hmm.
Blue green, you're tapping out, presumably. Blue black is probably its most natural and best home, but you probably just are supposed to play it in blue white and blue red also, probably everywhere but blue green, or maybe you even throw it in blue green too. Who knows?
I think you're just supposed to play it in blue decks.
Okay.
Cards you're not supposed to play in blue decks, in my opinion, is Stuck in Summoner's Sanctum and similarly Sleep Magic. So Stuck in Summoner's Sanctum is the 2 and a blue, or is it? It's 2 and a blue. Flash, Aura, Enchant. Actually did come up for me once. Enchant creature or artifact. I got to shut down someone's green crystal with this, which was nice.
Ooh.
No 4 counters for you a turn. But so this is the thing: tap a thing, keep it tapped, and its activated abilities can't be activated. I hate this card. I think this card is really bad. I've been chatting folks with Discord about some sealed builds, and people seem to want to include this card when you're playing blue and sealed, and I do not want to do that. We talked about this last week. This card doesn't answer sagas. There's lots of static abilities running around that don't get shut off. In the world of Vane's Treachery, this card gets worse. I'm not a fan of this card, and I don't understand people's affinity for it.
I agree. Don't want to play that card.
I do want to talk about Phantom Train. Choo choo. 3
choo
and a black.
Choo.
3 and a black artifact. This is a 4/4 with trample. You can crew it by sacrificing a creature and artifact, and you put a +1/+1 counter on it. This card is impressed. It's so funny. Like, day 2, this is a classic Ethan fashion. Day 2, I'm finding myself playing decks chock full of cards that I like graded as Ds and thought I would never be playing. And found myself playing Phantom Train in a black-white deck and was quite impressed by it. The threat of activation on this card is quite real. Like, your opponent's even if you don't particularly want to sacrifice what might be a real thing, your opponent has to make the decision like, do I really want to attack my 4/4 into a phantom train that's untapped? And then you can just sack something and make it a 5/5 and block with it. And so it has a threat of activation thing going on. Black-white especially makes good use of this. There's treasures floating around. Obviously, Job Select gives you 2 pieces of sack fodder. And then there's just a certain point where you go choo-choo, the train goes off the rails, and it's like an 8/8 trample, and they can't win. So the card was impressive to me in a small sample size.
I agree. It's best in black-white, and I think it is key to making black-white a very good deck if you want to make black-white a good deck.
I do. I definitely want to make black-white a good deck. I know we're going to disagree about this next card, but I do want to talk about it. Side quest, Catch a Fish. This is the 2 and a white enchantment. Beginning of your upkeep, you reveal the top card of your library. If it's an artifact or creature, you put it into your hand and flip it. Flips into a land, and you make a food, and that land taps for white, or you can pay 3, tap, sack an artifact to put a +1/+1 counter on your whole team at sorcery speed. Experience is varied between us. I will say
it's just varied a lot.
For myself, I did not realize that when you hit, this replaces itself. I didn't realize that when you reveal the card, I thought you would just like reveal it. If it's a thing, great, you flip it and then you draw that for your turn. No, you draw it off of it and then you draw for turn. So it does replace itself in that way. Like you're up a card when you hit with this.
How are you up? So you say that again?
You reveal the top card of your library. If it's an artifact or creature card, you put it into your hand and flip it. That's not you drawing for turn. When I read this initially, I thought you just reveal it.
Yeah.
And then if it's a thing, great, you flip it, and then you draw that as your draw step. So
that
it's not that.
But you know what? Do you know why I haven't realized that? Because I've never flipped side quest Catch a Fish because it's horrible.
Okay, so that is a thing.
Because I did play this per your recommendation.
I think you do have to have like close to 20 hits for this to be happy about it, which like you can get to.
Aren't we saying that you need to be packing 6 removal spells in your decks, or like 4 to 5 removal spells? So everything in your deck has to be a hit, but your removal.
Well, that's where White Oracite comes into play.
Sure.
Anyway, I that's why I know you're very salty about me recommending this card, so that's why I wanted to temper the conversation. But again, a card that I thought was unplayable trash was impressed by it in my experience with it.
Yeah, Blitzball is up next. This is a 3 mana rock that taps for mana of any color, and then when you do damage with a legend, you can sack it to draw 2 cards. I like this card still, but I'm also Legends pilled. I just really enjoy playing that deck.
I have not done the Legends thing yet. I have just like played this in 2-color decks though. Like there are, to the point of not wanting to miss land drops, ramping to 5 or 6. Like this blue-black deck that I had that had like 4 great rares. There's Legends abound even in just 2-color decks. Ramping is good if you care about this being an artifact, like which in the Esper space you will. I don't think it's Year of the Manolith. I don't think this is Dragonstorm Globe levels or starting column levels, but I have room in my heart for Blitzball, and it's excellent and sealed as Manoliths often are. Manoliths with divination buyouts often are.
Next up, we got Magic Pot. Talk to me.
Okay, this is early frontrunner for card that Ethan narrows in on to barely make playable. This is the 3 mana artifact. 1/4 dies into a treasure, and you can pay 2 tap to exile a card from a graveyard. So like I said, I've played exclusively best of 3. I want to talk about 2 artifacts in the best of 3 space, but I have liked this in best of 3 a lot. Siding it in just for its stats. Like I said, some decks are just 2/2s and 3/2s on the ground, and being able to side in 1/4s is very nice. Being able to hose flashback spells, black-green decks permanents with the activation is nice. I had a black-green deck where I had 2 copies of Fang, Fearless Lassie, which is the thing that cares about whenever a thing leaves your yard, you draw a card and lose a life. This triggered that, which is kind of sweet. It's an artifact that dies into an artifact if you care about that stuff in blue, white, and blue, black. Like, it just does a lot of stuff. I have main decked this card in some grindier decks. I definitely like having access to it out of the sideboard. And so if you're playing best of 3, I would put this on your radar.
Okay. Next one, Adventurer's Airship, a.k.a. Struggler's Copter.
Yeah, this is the 3 mana vehicle, 3/2 flyer. When it attacks, you can loot, and it has a crew cost of 2. And shout out to our Discord for naming it Struggler's Copter. That is an excellent nickname. I assumed this would be unplayable trash, and it's better than that. Goes back to my point of the sort of leveling war of I'm playing 2/2s and 3/2s, so I'm playing 1/3s and 1/4s on the ground, and then Adventurer's Airship flies over. I like this card's best home so far for me has been in black white. This also lets you play 18 lands happily because you've got a way to filter out those extra lands. This hits pretty well. Opponents don't want to use removal on it. And in like my current take, I remember back in Theros Beyond Death, our what was it, Cobbled Wings or Wings of Hubris or whatever was our like sealed tech.
Mm-hmm.
I think Airship and Magic Pot are the 2 secret weapons for sealed. I think knowing when to play those, when to side them in, when to main deck them is going to be kind of key for success, or it has been for me so far.
I'm here for that, except the one I have played Adventurer's Airship a fair amount in the format. It trading straight up with Wyvern is not a great feeling. Like if your opponent's playing Wyverns, Airship's a lot worse.
The revert, there's another way to spin that, which is it's really nice to have a way to answer Wyvern for 3 mana, because if you don't care about the 1/1, like I get to it, I can trade with it on blocks, I can attack in, get a loot, and they trade. I agree, it doesn't feel great, but it's better than taking 2 in the air every turn.
Sure. Can
we talk about Fire Magic, the tiered deal 1 to everything, deal 2 to everything, deal 3 to everything?
I am jonesing to get to draft a deck around this card.
Should I be? Is this talk to me about this? This card is not on my radar like at all right now.
I think it should be. It just hoses so many archetypes. It crushes red black. It crushes red white. It crushes blue white. Like it's very good against white decks in general.
Doesn't crush blue white, does it? Because blue white's playing the 1/4.
Is blue white playing the 1/4? I my blue white decks have been much more go wide, job selecty, Dragoons, Wyvern, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I've gotten wrecked by Fire Magic, and I really want to play with it. I think it's way better than usual for this type of Pyroclasm-esque effect. I mean, there's a lot of ways to loot it or surveil it if it's not good. I like Fire Magic.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've seen a lot of discussion in the Discord about it. Do I want like ways to pitch it, like Laughing Mad, or it's just a good card and you'll find a way to use it?
I think the latter.
Okay. I put Realm Sketching on this. This is the 2 blue sorcery, copy a creature, artifact, or land. I'm not that high on this on draft, but though maybe I should, but it really overperformed for me in sealed. Like the fact that this got to be quite toolboxy was nice. Like I copied Blitz Balls to be able to ramp to my 7-drop bombs. I've copied White Aurasites to do a like Aurasite your Aurasite thing and get back my thing, or just being able to copy their bomb. I copied your Primeval Titan, and now I get 2 lands, and now we're having a staring contest. I've found Realm Sketching to be good there. What's your take on it in draft so far?
I think it's really good as a 1/of. It's what you said. It's very versatile. It's versatile. It's 4 mana value thing for your blue decks, for your Sahagins, that sort of stuff. I like it.
Okay.
All right, White Aurasite. This is the 2 white artifact that taps for a white and exiles a non-land permanent. What are your thoughts on this card?
I'm not as high on it as the data is, which has it as one of the top commons, the top white common.
Not if you filter by top users.
Okay, you're right. One of my favorite cards in the format is the top white common filtered by top users, which is You're Not Alone, the trick we already talked about not having room for. Anyway, White Aurasite, I don't know. Like it's very good, but it's a 4-drop, and I'm not crazy about it in my white aggressive job select decks.
Yeah, I think in job select decks, Slash of Light is better because of the 4-drop problem. Like you turned me onto this, and after I've been playing white more, I've also felt this. Like, there are a ton. The format in general has a 4-drop problem, and white really has a 4-drop problem, which is tough. I've had great experiences with White Aurasite and some mediocre experiences. Like when you get to play it and you care about getting the mana boost from it, it's excellent. But you don't always get to care about the mana boost from it.
Except that Job Select does care about the mana boost because it's a mana hungry deck. You're not always going to have Weapons Vendor to move your equipment around. But yeah, it's a very good card. Like I said, I don't know where I'm at with like, I mean, what are the choices? White Oracite, White Mage's Staff, Weapons Vendor are the
And the match deck inventory. Match deck inventory is great.
yeah, Magic Tech Industry is so good. Like I almost want to take all three of the non-Oracite cards over Oracite, which is probably heresy. I'm sure that's a crazy thought to have. But because I feel like Slash of Talons, yeah, it doesn't answer non-creature spells, but it's so much cheaper and lets me double spell and do the things that
I think White Arcite's a lot more flexible than Slash of Light, oddly, despite
for sure it
sorcery
is.
speed.
For sure it is. Yes.
But so pack one, pick one. You're taking Sephiroth's Intervention over White Oracite? I think I am. You love White,
Oh,
though, so maybe
I
not.
do love White. I think you're supposed to take Intervention.
What about Wyvern? You're taking Wyvern over Oracite.
Yes.
What about Thunder Magic?
I'm taking Thunder Magic over Oracite.
That's where I'm at, too. Like, I agree that it's good. I think I'm, in my pick order, it is not as high, I think. I still will pick it and play it happily.
Just part of that is, I mean, I shouldn't be knocking Sephiroth's Intervention for that too, but and that's why I like Veins Treachery over Intervention still myself. Maybe that's wrong, but it's because of the 4-drop problem. Like starting my draft with a 4-drop versus a slightly worse, if it is, removal spell that is 2 mana or 1 mana, just feels so much better. It just pays dividends on the future of my draft and what I'm allowed to do.
Sure, yeah. I will say one of the other things while we're talking about removal spells here with the card filtering spells, being able to, I think, find what you need when you need it, like that sounds great to me in this format. Like being able to dig towards things. Your opponent plays a bomb, you dig towards your Sephiroth's Intervention. You need a land drop, you dig towards your land. Like all of that sounds and feels good to me after the games I've played in the format.
And you know what lets you do that? Adventurer's Airship.
Strugglers Copter, baby.
Dig. So sort of does this next card on our list.
Yeah, Rook Turret. I've been impressed by Rook Turret. I've not played it much, but I've been very impressed with it from opponents. 3 and a blue, 3/3 flyer. Whenever an artifact ETBs, you get a loot.
Another card that is I haven't played with much myself, but has much exceeded my expectations in Sealed. Like flyer, card filtering. It's kind of got like keyword bad in a sense where like it is a threat, but your opponent's like, I don't really want to use my removal on your Rook Turret, but I kind of have to, or else I'm going to take 3. But it suffers from being 4 mana, I think.
Yeah, that's certainly true. But the fact that in the late game, it can make sure you don't flood after you're hitting land drops or whatever. But I agree. It being a 4-drop in a world of much better 4-drops is tough, but I have been impressed when it's been on the battlefield. Next one, Malboro. 4 black, 4/4 ETBs. You lose 2 life, you discard a card, and you exile 3. And I say you because this has only been cast against me. And every time, almost, I curse and moan about losing to bad cards, and I've finally just decided that this is pretty good, and I need to start playing it.
Yeah, we haven't touched on the Mana Cyclers much. I think this is the best one.
This is definitely the best one.
Which is interesting. Colossal
And I think the
Dreadmaw and
green
Shambles.
the green is the next best one.
Yes. And the rest don't matter.
Hoping to never play, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Malboro is just good. That's my take.
But similarly also, like, it hitting you land drops in a pinch if you need them. Like, more to be said for that than I think I would have given credit for initially in the format.
Yeah.
And last one is the Warrior Sword, 3 in a red, 4/3 with job select. It's so good. This card has been massive problems for me when my opponents have played it. It's been great for me when I've played it. I was surprised to see that it was not performing very well on 17 lands.
I think that might just be more about red not performing well
than Warrior Sword.
Sword, but because I agree, I think like a 4 mana 4/3 is good, and then the fact that you can curve into it, like play the 4/3 on 4, trade it off either on blocks or on attacks your opponent trades, and then with 5 mana you move it somewhere else.
Well, in tandem with Weapon Vendor, it's just absurd.
Yeah, that's why I think that's why the Weapons Vendor thing. I'm just like, my big takeaways when I look at the data is like what you said. When cards are performing well that I'm underrating, I take the note. When cards are performing poorly that I like, I don't take the note because I trust my own experiences and my own deck building with those cards. And that's why like Weapons Vendor and Warrior Sword are still, I'm like, these cards have been good for me. So I'll keep playing them.
Yeah. All right, let's get to a draft log.
Okay.
All right, this is one of my drafts. Pack one, pick one. Lucky us. We opened Dion Bahamut's Dominant, which is 3 and white for 3/3. During your turn, it and other knights you control have flying. When it ETBs, it makes a 2/2 knight, and you can pay 6 mana, flip it, but you never really need to get that far because it usually wins before that point. If you flip it, it turns into a 5/5 flyer that puts a +1/+1 counter on your team and gives your creatures flying, and then flips back and destroys a permanent on the way back. The game never gets that far along.
Never gets that far. This actually might be my most drafted card because I've gotten like 5 of these.
Stop.
my,
Must be nice.
Day one, I got passed not 1 but 2 of these in pack 3.
That's absurd.
I was like, that's just day one stuff. But yeah, that's absurd even for just day one stuff. Yeah. Okay. Great. So start off with one of, if not the best card in the set.
Yeah, I am curious what you would do. I think if that's not in the pack, it's also a very interesting pick between Town Greeter, the one that mills 4, Magitech Infantry, the single white 2/1 that can search up another Magitech Infantry for 2 and a white, and then Sahagin, the 1 and a blue 1/3. Whenever you cast a non-creature with 4 mana or more, gets a +1/+1 counter. Where are you starting between those 3 cards?
I think
if Dion's not in the pack.
I think I would take Sahagin today.
I think that's what I would do also. Like, I think I'm in on wanting to try to be blue. I think Sahagin's great.
Yep.
But I think it's close. And certainly like based on what you want to do.
Is it close?
I do. Yeah. I don't think you can fault anybody for taking. I think if you like black green, you think that's one of the best decks or the best deck, you take Town Greeter. I think if you love playing white, like I'm sure DeFore would take Magitech Infantry after seeing him post that this is the best common and he's ever passing it and posted a deck with like 7 copies of it or something.
Okay. All right. DeFore doing DeFore things.
Yeah. So Dion, pack 1, pick 1. Moving on to pack 1, pick 2. See the following cards as options. There's some good commons. There's a Call the Mountain Chocobo. That's the 3 and a red, make a Chocobo and search up a mountain. There's Hectize, 1 and a black for the 1/1, discard a card. There's Ice Magic, 1 and a blue, instant, bounce something. There's Galacat, 2 and a white, 1/3 flying Vigi, gets +2/+0 as long as you control 2 or more artifacts. In the uncommons, there's Zidane, Tantalus Thief. That's the 3 red white for the 3/3 that lets you gain control of something until end of turn and attack with it. It gets lifelink and haste. Your rare in the pack is Venat, Heart of Hydaelyn, 1 white for 3/3. When you cast a legendary, draw a card. An ability only triggers once per turn, and then you can pay 7, tap it to exile target permanent and transform it into a 4/4 indestructible. It puts a +1/+1 counter on legendaries. If draw cards, it does a lot of stuff. It's very good.
I mean, you slam that. Like, that's probably just the best card here, period. And then just the fact that you picked a white legendary first is awesome too.
Yes, very, very thrilled with the white legendary start that you've got going. Pack 1, pick 3. I do think things start to get a little more interesting. So we've got white card, and see the following cards as options. I think we're going straight to the uncommons. You have a choice between Rufus Shinra, which is 1 white-black for a 2/4. If it attacks and you don't control Darkstar, you make Darkstar, which is a 2/2 white and black legendary doggo. And there's Overkill as well. 2 and a black instant. Target creature gets -0, -9,999 until end of turn.
Yeah, I think as much as I do like black-white, I don't think Rufus Shinra is that important to it. / you shouldn't be picking a third. And if you're going to be taking a black card here, you should take Overkill.
And you agree that's the pick. Nothing else in consideration, right?
I agree.
Okay, so moving on to pack 1, pick 4. We've got Dion, Venat as our 2 white cards, and then Overkill here. There's no white card worth picking in the pack. There's Slash of Light, but we don't have any of the equipment stuff going on yet. I think you want that before you take Slash of Light, personally. Mm-hmm. Slash of Light being the 1 and a white instant that deals damage equal to the number of creatures and equipment that you control to target creature. Black cards in the pack, there's Bane's Treachery, 1 and a black, give -2/-2, or -6/-6 if you kick it by sacking an artifact or a creature. There's also Tunberry, black for the 2/1, enters tapped with a stun counter, and during your turn it's got First Strike and Death Touch. There's also, though, a couple other bangers in Omega. Well, probably not in consideration, but Omega is very good.
It is a legend.
For the 8/8, it is a legend. And you can tap up to 1 target non-land permanent. It gets X stun counters, and you gain X life, where X is the number of towns you control. And then there's Choco Comet, red X, sorcery deals X to any target, and you make a Chocobo token that gets +1/+0 whenever land enters.
Choco Comet I haven't played it yet. It is underperformed for you, you've said.
It's underperformed for me. It's still very good. Like, I just had it as like busted, and now I just think it's very good instead.
Yeah.
Like it when it ends the game, it feels great. it feels less good when it's like 4 mana deal 2 and that doesn't kill anything. Like I have found myself oftentimes having to wait until I hit 6 mana or something to kill something relevant, and it feels less good there because you're only getting a 2/2 at that point. If you ever time it out to where it's 4 mana 2/2 kill something, it is great. I just don't feel like that mode hits that often.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what I would take here. I am tempted by Vane's Treachery. I think the picks are between Vane's Treachery, the black removal spell, Choco Comet, and Omega if you want to push further down the Legends path. Which I
The
don't
Omega
think is...
theme sing, I think that's a little crazy.
It, why? Don't you... And you love Legends. Why is that crazy?
I do, but you don't need to go. Omega's like towns more than it is legends to me, and you've already got such a good tight white curve. And I,
Mm-hmm.
like the white legends is a white thing more than it is a multicolored thing to me.
I don't know what I would do. I think Choco Comet is, in theory, the best card in this pack, and so you're supposed to take it. I think there's an argument to be made for taking Treachery to just get another black removal spell. And I like black-white a lot, probably more than I should.
I agree. Well, this is like a format defining question, I think, to me, which is are you supposed to spec around? I still think the answer is yes for me. I like not closing doors because in a sense, I think taking Vane's Treachery here is closing the door on red by passing Choco Comet.
Yeah, so this is interesting. One of the drafts is probably what we'll talk about on Lords Unlimited this week. It's a draft that we did on stream this week, and we started off with that busted black saga rare that like kills
Summon
a thing.
Primal Odin.
Thank you. Kills a thing. Then chapter 2, if it deals damage to them, you win the game, and then chapter 3, each player loses 2 life and you draw 2. And then like you have a lot of I was like, well, I want to play black, and you clearly wanted to bop around. My feeling about that is like I don't feel confident yet about like these picks feel close to me, and I feel like the more disparate I make my selections, the more at sea I will be as the draft progresses. And I don't feel that confident that the power level gap is so wide here that I'm supposed to take a red card and then decide which is my support color, or I'm not moving on. It's going to be really hard to push me off white with Dion into Vanat is my current feeling. I know white dries up in the future of this draft, and so it's be an interesting thing for me to have experienced in real time. But like that's my feeling right now is like you're not pushing me off of these 2 white cards because these are really powerful. And so I don't really want to be put. If I take Choco Comet, I put myself in a position where I could get pushed off of white.
Or red could flow and you get a pair white with red and you have a Choco Comet. Like missing, if red's open, here's my thought process. If red's open, missing Choco Comet is a disaster. If black's open, black's got enough removal and I've already got overkill that I'm not going to miss Vane's Treachery that much.
Okay.
That's my case. And I think that poses an interesting format thing of like, I have been doing that a lot. You clearly haven't.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to? How much are you supposed to? I still think you are. I like the bob and weave in this format.
Yeah, I have not liked navigating drafts that way. I've liked getting deep into a color. Like, I'd like getting deep into a color, and then if I have a reason to, and then the draft will naturally present to me. I've usually
one of
found
the 4 accompanying color pairs.
correct. And doing like I just feel I don't feel like that. Choco Comet's a fine pick here. But like I said, I would feel more comfortable, I think, locking up a second black spell here.
Yeah. I took Choco Comet. Moving on to pack 1, pick 5. If you take Vane's Treachery, you can take Hex Dies, which is the 1 black 1/1 discard card. If you take Choco Comet, it's a little more interesting of a decision, which again is what you're talking about. It's a straightforward path if you take Vane's Treachery. I just have not liked locking in quite that early. So you've got Hex Dies versus Thunder Magic, which is the red tiered shock spell. And then there's also Promptum Argentum hanging out, the 1 in a red 2/2 haste. I think that is worse than Thunder Magic.
Yeah, I think this is like it's a clear decision tree. Like if you take Vane's Treachery, you're taking Heck Dies. If you take Choco Comet, you're clearly taking Thunder Magic, I think.
Yes. So we should also shout that pick 4, there's no good white cards, right? The time that we spec'd on Choco Comet, there were no good white cards in the pack. There's a couple. There's Cloudbound, Moogle, and Slash of Light, but nothing good. Pick 5, there's literally no white cards. And pick 6, the pick we're coming up on, also literally no white cards. So we now have Dion, Venat, Overkill, Choco Comet, Thunder Magic with my path. With your path, you've got white cards and all black cards. So you see the following options. There's Corner by Black Mages, the 1BB target opponent sacks creature, you make an 0-1 wizard. There's also Black Waltz, number 3, 2 black red for a 2/2 flying death touch. When you cast a non-creature spell, it deals 2 damage each opponent. I've not loved that card.
I haven't either. It is a legend, though, for your Venat.
It is a legend. What do you like here?
Well, there's also Summon GF Efreet, which is a card I think we should talk about. 2 in a red, 3/2, Saga. Chapters 1 and 2, you can discard a card if you do draw a card, and chapter 3 and 4 adds red. Card's not great.
I've liked it as a one of. It's a little homeless.
It's a little homeless. Like if red white is one, I mean, this blue red doesn't really want it, and red white is the other good red deck. And I don't want to pitch lands in my red white decks. Like that's the thing about this is like every resource matters. It's really hard to on turn 3. I guess the most likely thing is you play this on turn 3 and you're pitching a spell to try and make sure you hit your 4th land drop. I don't know. Yeah,
it doesn't feel great. I agree.
I guess I would take Cornered by Black Mages reluctantly.
Regardless. Right. Yeah. With my path or your path. Your path, you're probably happier. So I guess your path is clearer through the draft because you're just drafting black and then holding on to white for dear life.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So you pick 7, you get a side quest, Hunt the Mark, no matter what.
Yeah, that's the
pick 8.
3 BB enchantment, destroy a creature, and then can flip if you have 3 treasures.
Yeah. Pick 8, you get Vane's Treachery, which is great no matter what you do. And then pick 9, weirdly, white opens back up again after there being literally no white cards for 4 or 5 packs in a row. Pick 9, you wheel Magitech Infantry, which is just absurd.
That's awesome.
Yeah, awesome if you're planning to stick with white. And then a Phoenix down and a Call the Mountain Chocobo, pick 10.
Phoenix down in your Dion deck. Let's go.
Phoenix down in your Dion deck feels real good, yeah. So that, but white's not open, so it's interesting. But I think to your larger point, Venat and Dion are good enough that you're probably just not letting yourself get pushed off white.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, like maybe you're gonna hit the lottery and open better rares in pack 2 or pack 3, but like you're probably not, and I'm not giving up on that power level.
Sure, I agree. And in this instance, it works out better to have stuck with black, right? Because black flows. But all of a sudden, if black and white dry up and you've passed that Choco Comet, it's a tough life. Hypothetically.
The best case scenario in that world where black and white dry up and you take Choco Comet is that red-blue flows. That's the best case.
Or that red flows and you get to play red paired with white with your Dion and your Venat. Like, I think... So here's how you're viewing it. You're viewing it as... And again, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to speak for you, but in my mind,
please do.
In my mind, you're viewing it as white's great. Ergo, I'm going to get as deep into black as I can while white's not flowing, so that I can definitely play black white. And when I spec on the Choco Comet pick 4, I'm like, okay, I also want to hold on to white. But I'm feeling like I'm holding on a different way, which is that I need to make sure I try my darndest if white's not open to find whatever other color is the most open to pair with white. I think is my thought process behind picking the Choco Comet.
Yeah, I guess what I feel, it goes back to what I said, is that I don't feel confident in the power level gaps right now.
Sure.
And so that's why I'm like, well, maybe I'm taking a C over a C plus or whatever, but it's going to be a cleaner path for me. And maybe in 3 weeks I'll go, oh yeah, I definitely know this. And that's the other thing. It's like signals are almost impossible to read right now. Because
less so in best of 3. There's some clear signaling in best of 3, I think.
Yeah, less so in best of 3. Depends on your pods, but yeah, I have not been bopping around that much.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Any other parting thoughts to get out in the world before we go here?
I'm hyped for Vegas. That's all I'll say. I'm
Ooh.
I'm excited for three days of degeneracy in all aspects. I'm very excited.
I am also hyped for Vegas. I think if we're talking takeaways from the episode for me,
Yeah.
my plan going into next week is to value filtering a little higher. Specifically, I got to play with combat tutorials, Dreams of Laguna, and
Resentful Revelation.
Resentful Revelation. Thank you. I got to start playing with those cards and just valuing filter a little bit higher. I'm going to bump down my view of it as a crazy high synergy format and try doing some good cards with some pockets of synergy, or just like really trying to maximize like the cards like Sahagin rather than just overarchingly a synergistic format. And I think maybe bumping removal up slightly. I don't think I'm going to, though. Like, I think I have removal valued appropriately for myself. Like, I think I know which ones are good and I pick them highly. Those two things.
I'm going to be playing a lot more Magic Pots and Adventurers Airships. That's my resolution for the week.
Stop. Oh, my Lord. And on that note, everyone, thank you as always to Salty Pretzels for intro and outro music. Make sure you give it a listen.
You can find all of our content at lordsoflimited.com. We've got our tier list. Maybe Ben will do some tinkering to update it with combat tutorial and Dreams of Laguna up in the power rankings there. Our tier list is there. Our episode backlog is there. Our links to our YouTube channel, our Twitch streams respectively. It is #summer break, so you can find Ben streaming quite a bit on Twitch. Our merch, courtesy of TeePublic. Maybe get a fast shipped shirt in anticipation of Vegas if you want. All of that is available at lordsoflimited.com.
If you got any feedback about the show or any questions, shoot us an email at lordsoflimited@gmail.com.
Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week live from Las Vegas for another episode of Lords of Limited.
See you later.